Sometimes when you are in the depths of despair, when you're in an unresourceful state, you can be forgiven for thinking that you really have got nothing to offer the world, which is not correct. Every person on this planet has a purpose, and every person has a gift that they can share with the world, and every person can make a difference to other people's lives. I remember reading the book called .com Secrets, and there's a story of a guy there who wanted to help people with weight loss. And he decided that he was going to put a lot of weight on first, and then use lots of different techniques and see what works really well, and then share that with the world. So he put on a lot of weight, which I couldn't do. I couldn't put weight on even if I wanted to. Oh God, I really do want to, but I can't. Because when you have type 2 diabetes, your body prefers fat to sugar, and so it doesn't matter how much carbs you eat, they never get converted into fat. In fact, this is why somebody with diabetes should eat as much fat as possible, which is dietary fat, so that your body doesn't use its stored fat for energy. It then gets its fat from dietary fat. But anyway, that will be part of another story. This guy then used different things until he found a method that helped him to lose weight. And then he shared that with the world, and by doing that, by embracing the internet and sharing that with the world, he became a millionaire. There is a doctor called Dr. Mark Heyman, who wrote a book called The Accidental Psychiatrist, because he was working in China, and he ended up with lots and lots of mercury poisoning. And it was a very stressful job. And then all of a sudden, he went from being a happy-go-lucky kind of guy, unstoppable, to absolutely morbidly depressed. And then he had to find out by himself, being a medical doctor, what had gone wrong and what he could do to fix it. And so he wrote a book, and he's helped loads and loads of people with depression, teaching them about depression and how to get out of that depression. For me, I suppose I have become an accidental psychiatrist, because 2 years ago, I actually did an experiment to try and get out of this unproductive mode and to become self-actualizing, to become a highly productive person. And I used fear motivation, but under very, very deep hypnotherapy, very deep. My ordeal lasted for 2 days, and I don't think anybody should try this at home, because the effects can be unpredictable. So I used a number of techniques that I am aware of, and I went into suicidal ideation. I went through such depression. I've never ever known such deep despair, such depression, where you can't live in the moment, you can't sleep, you have nightmare after nightmare, you don't look forward to going to sleep, you can't live in the moment, you're eating yourself up all the time. When my grandchildren were having fun playing computer games, I was eating my heart out. There's no peace, and it's much easier, because you're in so much emotional pain, it's much easier to just find the easy way out, because it will give you peace. Just exit this world and you'll be in peace. And if it wasn't for the fact that I was going to leave such a mess behind, I may have actually considered that. I've just got so much to live for, but at the moment in time, I couldn't really see that. I went through so much hell. I've never ever known depression, anxiety, fear, cold ice fear, and insomnia like that ever in my life. I didn't want to take antidepressants. I kind of used Valium just to help me go to sleep, and it wasn't the ideal solution. Life absolutely sucked, and this went on for the whole of 2020, starting from when I did the experiment around about March, April, to about June, I think, May, June of this year, when I did a lot of research, and I didn't want to go the antidepressant route. I get people off antidepressants and sleeping pills. I deal with anxiety, depression, insomnia and stuff like that, so I would have looked like a real bloody fraud if I had gone that route. And I didn't want to go down that route because I've seen the result that it has on people, because people just end up taking more of these antidepressants, and then the psychiatrist mixes and matches them, and eventually you get old and you go to these mental health clinics, bang on the counter and say, "Where's my pills?" And when they stop working, then you get electroconvulsive therapy, which gives you peace. You know, they put 450 volts through your cranium. That gives you peace for about 2 weeks, but then the feelings come up again. And the other way they deal with it is with Thorazine, which is chemical lobotomy. It may work, but unfortunately, by the time they're finished with you, you become like a shaking rat. You say, okay, well, that's not a life. I didn't want to go down that route. So I became an accidental psychiatrist. Whether I liked it or not, I became an accidental psychiatrist. I helped so many people come off sleeping pills. I've helped so many people come off antidepressants. I've helped so many people with anxiety and depression and insomnia. And yet here I couldn't heal myself. And that kind of sucked. So I did a lot of research, tons of research, and I found accidentally through a colleague that was trying to get me to buy a personal healing medical device called the Healy, and she sent me some information by a lecture that was done by Carolyn McMahon about how you can use frequencies to break bonds and how you could get instant results. And by using that frequency, so I read her book, I read both her books, The Resonance Effect and the Pain, FSM for Pain. And in that there's a protocol which is called the concussion and vagus protocol, which gets rid of the inflammation from the brain and gets the vagus nerve to calm down. There was also protocols for post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, depression, brain fog, all kinds of psychosomatic problems. And I said, that's it, I got to have this. So I asked a therapist in London if she could do this for me, FSM therapist. And she was saying, yeah, just for the vagus and the concussion protocol, it would cost me £200. And so you're talking about a couple of £1,000, which isn't that much, considering what you're going to get back for it, because you would need to go back several times for different parts of the protocol. I felt I couldn't really go to London with the lockdown and everything that was going on at the time. And I decided to do a crash course. You can't get the equipment unless you become a practitioner, unless you do the course. Not necessarily a practitioner, you have to do the course. So I did the course, I did the crash course. I did the core first, and I did the visceral course second. I got the equipment from America, and I started to use it. The first time I used it, it had no effect on insomnia. My wife insisted that I took some Valium in order to go to sleep. The second day I used it, and she said, take some Valium. And I said, no, I got to trust that Carolyn McMahon knows what she's doing. And I couldn't believe that I went into a vegetative state. and I had the best night's sleep ever. After that, I've used it for things like post-traumatic stress disorder, for anxiety, depression, and not only have I used it on myself, but I've used it on other people, and the effects have been amazing. Plus, of course, all of my own knowledge with hypnotherapy and gut dysbiosis and stuff like that, functional medicine. I feel that I am a accidental psychiatrist, and I can help. I have already helped people like Sarita, who was suicidal, had terrible postnatal depression, and was trying to cope with their addictive behavior, and she's got a life now, and thanks to this protocol. So I have a gift that I'm a savior. The way I have to think about this is that I am a savior, and there are people in this that are waiting for me. They're just waiting for me to come and save them. They're waiting for me to come and save them from mental health problems, from suicidal ideation. They're waiting for me to help them, save them from the effects of chemotherapy. They're waiting for me to help them prepare for surgery or the after effects of surgery. They're waiting for me, if they get injured, to help them recover quickly. They're waiting for me to save them from simple lifestyle diseases such as heart disease. Nobody in this world should die of heart disease. This is a totally it's just a lifestyle disease, and with the work I do, I can facilitate change. I can make change easy for people who want to live a healthy lifestyle, so nobody dies from heart disease. Type 2 diabetes is lifestyle disease. Again, people are out there humanity is waiting for me to come and save them. There are people that are dying, people that are afraid, people that are being driven by fear to make bad decisions. People are waiting for me. They're waiting for a Messiah. They're waiting for me to come and save them. Am I going to let humanity down? Am I going to be so lost in my own thoughts and my own problems that I'm going to let humanity down when they're waiting for me as a savior, for me to come and save them from this terrible atrocity that the world is going through right now? Somebody has to come and save them. And I have that skill. To save them. I have that skill and the knowledge to empower them, to stop them being afraid of germs, to stop them making some terrible decisions that cannot be undone. I couldn't even stop my kids. I've got no influence over my kids. I couldn't even stop them from going and making some terrible decisions that will have very long and dire consequences for them. And the way I look at it, if I could save my kids, then, oh God, give me the strength to go and save, other people's children. The world is in the grips of pure evil, pure and utter evil, and it's being driven by fear and greed. The Australian people were being terrorized by their governments. They insisted that the government and people in politics were talking about everybody having a jab, 2 jabs, and then they were saying that, well, they don't count you got to have a booster, and they were saying that the 20% of the people who haven't had the jab, they will be excluded. They will be excluded from events, from games, from socializing, from football matches, from cinemas. They can't even go to schools. And then this is the government, this is the politicians saying that to the people in Australia. And we only heard a couple of days ago that both Moderna and AstraZeneca, or was it Pfizer, there's a video out there that they have blown the lid of the corrupt politicians. They were paid absolutely millions to drive policy. So if you can't even trust the elected members to safeguard your health, and because they're lining their pockets with so much money from the pharmaceutical industry, in fact, the whole system has become so corrupt. There are so many people who are making so much money from pharmaceutical stock. Politicians are making money. The whole world is in the grips of pure and utter evil, and the world that needs a savior, not because I want to become filthy rich through what I'm doing, but I want to get the truth out, and I want to help people. I want to help as many people as I possibly can from unnecessary suffering, from unnecessary disease, from unnecessary fear, from unnecessary torture, and from unnecessary death. These are simple things. These things that I know about are simple, God's gift to mankind, that the super elite, the super rich, the deep state does not want us to know about. And there has to be somebody who has to take this message out to humanity and try and save as many lives as possible and free us from this evil. Once you have this knowledge, once I empower people, every person that will walk through my door, all right, it will be online, will be empowered with knowledge, and nobody can take that knowledge back. Not only will they be able to help themselves, and unlike me, hopefully, they can help their children, they can help their families, they can help their society, their communities. And if you put these little satellites all over the world, hundreds and thousands of millions of them, they can start helping each other, and they can free themselves from the slavery that we're going through. We are actually enslaved on earth, whether we like it or not. I wanted to write a book on how to survive chemotherapy and how humanity is enslaved on earth, but one of the things I was going to do towards the end, after talking about the history of medicine and how presidents of America have been auctioned. It's actually an auction every time somebody actually gets elected. It's like who can do the most for you. Even Obama was a brand. They so alienated the black community, and that counts for about 20% of the votes in America. And so they needed to come up with a brand, and Obama was a brand. And just look at some of the decisions he's taken, which are all to further the desires of the deep state. One of the things he did was he stopped anybody outside America using his legal system to sue the pharmaceutical industry. So if they get injured, somebody gets injured in the UK, you could use their no-win, no-fee solicitors to sue the pharmaceutical industry and get compensation, but he stopped that now. So nobody outside the USA can do that. So the whole system, I was going to write a history about medicine and slowly come up to the present day and talk about stuff such as Rife machines and so on, Nurse Rennie, Dr. John Holt, all of the wonderful people, Huxley, that have come, and they've come up with the most amazing stuff. And recently it was Dr. Basinski who's come up with a non-toxic cancer cure. But something that happened 200 years ago, and it's been revived in the last 15 years, is the God's gift to mankind, because it's so simple. You can make it in your kitchen, so you don't need expensive electronic systems to kill germs. You can make this from modified table salt, and you can do it in your kitchen. And this was a complete game changer. Although it was invented 200 years ago, it was reinvented 15 years ago by accident, purely by accident, by Jim Humble. And it has the potential, literally has the potential to eliminate the need for antibiotics, the need for vaccines. It can bankrupt the pharmaceutical industry, but you're not allowed to talk about it. So even now I can't actually mention its name. The moment I mention its name, I will get a Google strike, and I would lose my livelihood. And so writing a book was not going to happen, because even Amazon is withdrawing all of the books that mention this particular mineral. So you can't actually publish life-saving books now. And so the only way around that was to do something that I'm doing now, which is to create a movement where you can use the power of the internet, and you can bypass all of these huge companies like Facebook, you can bypass Google, you can bypass Amazon, and you can go directly to the people, and you can put these books in their hands, and you can put this knowledge in their hands. You can empower them, but without being a slave to the system. And you can do that. You can actually become well-known, you can become financially independent, you can make a difference. And I want to get this message across. I want to put my books into the hands of every person who needs them without being shackled. And I want to put this knowledge in the hands of every person who can make use of it. And I can do that with something like this, which is an online system. There's more than one way to do it. The coaching is a good way to start, but there are lots of other ways where you can actually use the power of the internet to influence a huge number of people. Because if you think about it, the internet is actually humanity. And so the majority of people who are using the internet are people like you and me, and they are being lied to. They're being lied to, they're being deceived, they're being tortured, they are driven by fear to make wrong decisions. Well, isn't it about time that somebody actually enlighten them using the power of the internet? So we can use the same system that the super rich are using to disempower us, and we can use that system to empower humanity. And that's the idea behind my project, which I've kind of named as the Guardian Angel Project. The idea being that if you had a guardian angel guiding you throughout your life, you wouldn't make some of the terrible mistakes you make, which affect your health and affect your longevity and affect your mental health. So my dream is to make a difference to the world, and my dream is to create a revolution in healthcare, which is all based on prevention rather than treatment, rather than symptom management. My revolution, or the revolution I like to see, is preventative healthcare, where we can stop people getting ill in the first place rather than trying to deal with the problems once they become apparent. You don't leave things until you get the first stages of diabetes, because by that time you've had diabetes for 10 years and the damage has already been done. If you can prevent it by empowering people with lifestyle changes, then they don't have to have diabetes in the first place. But if you can get people to check for diabetes very early on, you do it once a year, because it takes 10 years. So if you test yourself, say, once a year, you can actually realize that you have a problem and you can do something about it. And that's what I want. I want a revolution in healthcare, a complete and utter revolution where we are not being terrorized, where we're not held to ransom, where we don't have to sell our soul, where we don't have to go bankrupt. In America, more and more people are going bankrupt trying to look after their health, and where you don't end up on a gurney in an operating theatre in Pakistan and lose your life and go bankrupt in the process, just to feed the medical profession and just to feed the system that is not really serving us. The allopathic system is the way it is because it's become an extremely effective business model. It really has. And when somebody in the Asian community becomes a doctor, they usually go outside and they celebrate with, dol tamaka, dum 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 dum, and they eat laddus, the sweetmeats, and they celebrate that because they know that once a child becomes a doctor, then not only is he minted for life, but the parents and everybody else in the community is minted for life. It's a horrible healthcare system that has taken its own momentum. You see, modern healthcare is God's gift to mankind. If I was to have an accident, I would want to be taken to the nearest A&E because they can bring you back from the brink of death. But for long-term healthcare, it's really a crock of shit.